All right, we officially have Gabbie Marshall reconnecting with Caitlin Clark, joining forces in Indianapolis. This is good news. Now, all we got to do is find a way to get rid of Stephanie White and get Kate Martin to Indiana as well. We got to break this down. The Caitlin Clark, Gabbie Marshall reconnection is happening in Indiana.
The Iowa reunion is happening in Indianapolis. Gabbie Marshall, Caitlin Clark's defensive ace from those back-to-back national championship runs, is officially moving to Indiana. And before you say this is just a coincidence, her partner just accepted a director position at ETS Performance headquarters, which happens to be located in the exact city where the Fever play. Clark's response on Instagram: "I'm so proud of you. That's not casual friend energy. That's recruiting energy."
So now we have this. Caitlin Clark's Iowa teammate Gabbie Marshall announces move to Indiana. Now we know she has not been playing ball since Iowa. I think she moved to North Carolina or something after Iowa. Now headed to Indiana to reconnect with CC. Clark was forced to sit out as the Indiana Fever made an unexpected postseason run, pushing the Las Vegas Aces to Game 5. Clark missed out on most of the season, yada, yada, yada.
Here's what makes this timing significant. Marshall hasn't played competitive basketball since graduating from Iowa in the 2023-24 season. She went to North Carolina, earned her master's degree, and by all accounts seemed done with the sport professionally. But now she's relocating to Indianapolis, right as the Fever enter the most uncertain offseason in franchise history. The team currently has only 3 players under contract for 2026, including Clark. That's not a roster. That's a blank canvas. And the article from earlier this week didn't just mention the move as a fun fact. It specifically raised the question, should Indiana give Marshall a tryout? That's not speculation from random fest. That's legitimate basketball media asking if the Fever should bring in Clark's former college teammate for an evaluation.
Before Clark was a star in the WNBA, she became the NCAA's all-time scoring leader during her college career with the Iowa Hawkeyes, and she spent her entire time with Iowa alongside Kate Martin, now with the Golden State Valkyries, and Gabbie Marshall, who retired from basketball after the 2023-24 season. And here it says,
now let's talk about what Marshall actually brought to those Iowa teams. She wasn't a star. She averaged single digits in scoring. But watch any tape from those tournament runs and you'll see what she did. Elite perimeter defense. Smart rotations, 40% from three-point range on low volume but high efficiency. And most importantly, she understood how to play with Clark. She knew when to cut, when to spot up, when to get out of the way. That chemistry matters. The Fever spent all of last season trying to figure out who could complement Clark's game. They cycled through lineups. They made mid-season adjustments. They brought in veterans who theoretically should have fit. And by the playoffs, they still hadn't fully solved it. So the idea of bringing in someone who already knows how to maximize Clark's strength, that's not nostalgia. That's practical roster construction.
Following her Iowa career, Marshall went on to attend the University of North Carolina, earning her master's degree. Oh, she's smart. Oh, she's smart. So she went on to North Carolina to earn her master's. Marshall has remained supportive of Clark during her WNBA career, attending numerous Fever games to watch her good friend despite being in Chapel Hill. But on Sunday, Marshall's partner, Spencer Turrell, announced on Instagram that he has accepted a job at ETS Performance as the Director of Operations in Indianapolis, which happens to be where Clark and the Fever are located. So the reconnection is happening. Hey, can we get Gabbie back in the gym, CC? I think she still could shoot the 3 and play some deep.
The comparison to other leagues is worth making here. J.R. Smith got his brother Chris Smith onto the Knicks roster in 2013. Giannis Antetokounmpo got his brother Thanasis signed to the Bucks. And Thanasis has been on that roster for 5 seasons now. LaMelo Ball got summer league opportunities with multiple NBA teams primarily because of his brother's connections. This happens constantly in professional sports. Star players have influence over roster decisions, especially when those decisions involve end-of-bench spots or training camp invites. So the question isn't whether it's appropriate for Clarke to advocate for Marshall. The question is whether Marshall can actually play at this level. And here's the thing. We don't know. She never tried. She went straight from college to graduate school. She didn't play overseas. She didn't enter the WNBA draft. But the defensive instincts and shooting touch don't just disappear. She's been staying in shape, if she's been working out. A training camp invite costs the Fever nothing. The worst-case scenario is she doesn't make the roster. The best-case scenario is they find a rotation player who already has chemistry with their franchise cornerstone.
Obviously, there's a lot going on and a lot of conversations surrounding the new offer from the WNBA with the $1 million base salary, but they are not interested in continue to pay for housing for these players and certain things, that stipends and things like that they were giving before. They're basically saying, hey, we're upping the pay and now you can cover your own tabs for living and all of this other stuff. A lot of people are up in arms about it. Some people are saying take the money and do the deal. Let's get the season going. Let's hear what Alexa Philippou had to say about this on ESPN today.
But this story doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's happening against the backdrop of the most contentious CBA negotiation in WNBA history. And the latest proposal from the league, reported earlier today, is causing significant division among players and fans. The headline numbers sound impressive. $1 million maximum salary. League minimum projected to exceed $225,000. Average salary over $500,000. The salary cap would jump from $1.5 million this season to $5 million, and it would be directly tied to revenue growth moving forward. Those are substantial increases. The current maximum salary is $241,000, so we're talking about more than quadrupling the top end of the pay scale for minimum salary players. It's nearly a tenfold increase from the current $25,000 floor. On paper, this looks like a massive win for the Players Association.
About where things stand at the moment.
Yeah, George, well, there was a lot of meeting, a lot of back and forth over the last few weeks in hopes of trying to get some movement as yesterday's extension neared. And I can report that, we saw a report a few weeks ago on the league's proposals to the players. I actually have some updated numbers I'd like to share you all of where the league's latest proposal stands. Right now, they are offering a deal with a salary for players at the maximum with a $1 million guaranteed base, projected revenue sharing, pushing those total earnings for maximum players to more than $1.2 million. Sources have told me just now. The average salary projection under this deal, the average salary across the board is projected to exceed $500,000. The minimum salary would be projected to.
But here's where it gets complicated. The league's proposal also eliminates several benefits that players currently receive. No more league-provided housing during the season. No more travel stipends. No more meal allowances. The league's position is straightforward. We're giving you substantially higher salaries. Now you can cover your own living expenses like professionals in every other league. And that's where the debate splits. One side argues that when you're making $225,000 minimum, you can absolutely afford to rent an apartment for 4 months. NBA rookies making the league minimum of $1.1 million don't get free house. NFL practice squad players making $200,000 don't get meal stipends. The expectation in those leagues is that your salary covers your cost of living. So why should the WNBA be different? Especially when salaries are increasing this dramatically. The counter-argument focuses on the financial reality for players at the bottom of the roster. A rookie making $225,000 sounds good until you factor in taxes, agent fees, and the fact that you might get cut after training camp. If you're relocating to a new city for what might be a 2-month opportunity, Spending $10,000 on rent and deposits and furniture eats into that salary quickly. The current system where housing is provided removes that financial risk. You can focus on basketball instead of worrying about breaking a lease if you get waived.
Do you think of this? Obviously, it was not enough to get to an agreement yesterday for a new CBA. So it will be very interesting to see. We know that revenue share and salary cap, a salary cap that was actually tied directly to revenue growth in the league was very important to them. It's right now, again, unknown what they think of this proposal. But the reason why both sides do want to have this 6-week kind of runway to try to come to agreement is that they really see this as an opportunity to have an urgency to actually get the deal done sooner than that. That was kind of an expectation in agreeing to this, and we'll see how much closer they can come as we get to the next 40 days or so.
The timing of this negotiation matters tremendously. The previous collective bargaining agreement extension deadline was yesterday, and both sides agreed to a 6-week extension to continue talks. That pushes the new deadline to mid-January, and the urgency is real, because training camps typically begin in late April. Free agency usually opens in February. If there's no CBA agreement by January, the entire off-season timeline gets thrown into chaos. Teams won't know what their salary cap is. Players won't know what their market value is. Free agents won't be able to negotiate contracts because the financial structure of the league will be undefined, and with 3 expansion teams entering over the next 2 seasons, including the Golden State Valkyries starting play in 2025. The league needs clarity on roster rules and salary structures immediately. What makes this particularly tricky is that both sides have legitimate leverage. The players can point to the massive ratings increases from last season. Caitlin Clark's debut season brought record viewership. The playoffs averaged higher numbers than ever before. Attendance was up across the league. Sponsorship deals increased. The Players Association can credibly argue that they're the ones driving this revenue growth, so they deserve a larger share.
Well, that's what I'm saying. A deal has to get done before the
greatness is a journey.
A deal would have to get done before that. Like there's no way you could keep pushing this thing 6 weeks. Like I think a deal has to be done by January. I'm hoping they're able to get one done. A lot of people, it's a lot of differing opinions on the most recent offer from earlier today that was reported. A lot of people do not agree with them taking housing out of the deal. Some people do. I just feel like, hey man, listen, if the league minimum is going to be $225,000, you can go get your own apartment. That's just kind of how I feel. I don't know, but I mean, you get $1 million contract, you can go get your rent an apartment for however 4 months. Okay, it's not gonna kill you. That's just how I feel. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. This is Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share the channel.
But the league can counter with financial realities. The WNBA has historically operated at a loss, subsidized by the NBA. Even with the ratings bump from last season, the league's revenue is still a fraction of what the NBA generates. The proposal to tie the salary cap directly to revenue growth is actually a significant concession from ownership. It means that if the league continues to grow, players automatically benefit without having to renegotiate. That's not a standard feature in most professional sports CBAs. The question becomes whether the elimination of housing and stipends is a deal breaker, and the answer probably depends on where you sit in the roster hierarchy. If you're a star player making close that $1 million maximum, losing the housing benefit is irrelevant. You were going to get your own place anyway. But if you're fighting for the last roster spot, making $225,000 but only for part of the season, that housing benefit represented real financial security. So here's what makes this fascinating from a negotiation standpoint. The Players Association represents everyone from superstars to fringe roster players. Those groups have different priorities. Caitlin Clark doesn't care about league-provided housing. She's going to make millions from endorsements regardless of her WNBA salary. But a second-round draft pick from a small school who might not even make the opening night roster? That housing benefit could be the difference between taking a WNBA opportunity or playing overseas where the money is guaranteed. Finding a deal that satisfies both groups is the challenge, and with only 6 weeks to figure it out, the pressure is mounting. The league wants to start promoting the 2025 season. Teams want to begin roster construction. Players want certainty about their financial futures. But nobody wants to rush into an agreement that creates problems down the line. And this is where the Gabbie Marshall situation connects back to the bigger picture. If the CBA negotiations drag on, or if there's any kind of work stoppage, the entire concept of roster construction gets delayed. The Fever currently have 3 players under contract. They need to build an entire team. And if Marshall is seriously considering a comeback, the timing of that decision depends entirely on when the league finalizes its financial structure. Because here's the reality. A training camp invite for Marshall only makes sense if the Fever know what their roster limits are and what their salary cap situation looks like. If the CBA isn't resolved, teams can't make those decisions. So Marshall's basketball future, Clark's ability to influence roster decisions, and the Fever's entire offseason plan are all dependent on these negotiations concluding successfully. The 6-week extension suggests both sides believe a deal is possible. You don't agree to continue negotiating if you think the gap is insurmountable. But the fact that they couldn't reach an agreement before the initial deadline shows there are still significant issues to resolve. The housing benefit elimination seems to be a major sticking point. The revenue sharing formula probably needs more work, and there are likely other details we haven't even heard about yet that are complicating things. What happens if they can't reach a deal by mid-January? Technically, the current CBA could continue under its existing term, but that would mean no salary increases, no expanded revenue sharing, and continued financial uncertainty for a league that's trying to capitalize on unprecedented momentum. It would be a catastrophic missed opportunity. The WNBA has never had more mainstream attention. Ratings have never been higher. Sponsorship interest has never been stronger. This is the moment to lock in a long-term financial structure that rewards players for the growth they're driving. But it has to be a structure that works for everyone. The stars need to feel properly compensated for their market value. The role players need to feel financial security. The league needs to maintain fiscal responsibility. And the fans need to know that their favorite players will be on the court when the season starts, not sitting out due to a labor dispute. The Marshall situation is a perfect microcosm of where the league is right now. You have a player with legitimate talent who could contribute to a team, but her path to the roster depends on factors completely outside her control. The Fever can't offer her a contract until they know what their cap space is. Marshall can't make a decision about attempting a comeback until she knows what the financial opportunity actually looks like. And Clark can't advocate for her former teammate until the team has clarity on roster construction rules. Everything is connected. The CBA negotiations affect roster decisions. Roster decisions affect team chemistry. Team chemistry affects on-court performance. On-court performance affects ratings. Ratings affect revenue. Revenue affects future CBA negotiations. It's a cycle, and right now the league is at a critical point in that cycle. So when you see Gabbie Marshall moving to Indianapolis, it's not just a feel-good reunion story. It's a potential roster decision that could impact the Fever's championship window. When you see the CBA negotiations extending into January, it's not just a business story. It's a situation that could derail the entire 2025 season if it goes wrong. And when you see players debating whether to accept the league's proposal, it's not just about housing benefits. It's about setting the financial foundation for the next decade of WNBA growth. The next 6 weeks will determine a lot. Will Marshall get her tryout? Will the CBA get finalized? Will the Fever be able to build a championship roster around Clark? Will the league capitalize on its momentum or stumble into a labor dispute? These aren't separate questions. They're all part of the same story. And that story is about a league at a crossroad. The WNBA has never been more popular, never had more potential, and never faced higher stakes in a negotiation. The decisions made in the next month and a half will shape the league for years to come. Players know it. Owners know it, and fans should know it too. So whether you think the players should take the deal or hold out for more, whether you think Marshall deserves a roster spot or not, whether you think the Fever can win a championship with their current core, all of those opinions matter, because this is the moment when the WNBA either locks in its status as a major professional sports league with sustainable economics, or it fumbles the opportunity and slides back into financial uncertainty. The Marshall reunion is happening. The CBA negotiations are ongoing, and the future of the league hangs in the balance. What happens next will tell us everything we need to know about where the WNBA is headed. Let me know what you think in the comments. Should the players take this deal? Should the Fever give Marshall a tryout? And what happens if this CBA negotiation falls apart? Drop your thoughts below.